Let's talk about how you can protect your clients who are selling digital courses, group coaching programs, and memberships. Hey, I'm Emily Reagan, and welcome to the YouTube channel. I help virtual assistants become very savvy, highly paid, highly prized marketing assistants. I love doing marketing because it gives me the most flexibility to be a mom of four, and it lets me work ahead. I'm not quite chained to my desk and normal office hours, which is why I became a freelancer in the first place. So here on this channel, I give you trainings to get better at your services. I introduce you to sister service providers to give you insight to how they do business. And I'm here to help you grow because I have seen what a game changer this has been for me in my life as a mom. The income I've been able to make, add to the family budget, pay for extra things. And it's also life-giving work. I love being part of a team again. I just love freelancing. So today I have a special guest, Autumn Witt Boyd, who's here to teach us about digital protection in the online space. Autumn is a lawyer, especially for online businesses, and she's worked with some pretty big names like Jasmine and Amy Porterfield, and she can help you be compliant. Sometimes our clients come to us and they need a little bit of extra help and they don't know what they don't know. They don't know they need a privacy policy, terms of use, terms of sale, a contract, some of the basic law stuff. So check out the links below. You're going to find a link to Autumn's contract template shop. That's where the gold is. You'll be able to go grab what you need for your client, have your client pay for it. This isn't something you do, and help them protect themselves. Help them protect from refund requests, from defaulted payments, and all of that. This episode is actually a longer podcast episode over on my podcast, Unicorns Unite. So I encourage you to click on the link below and dive even deeper with Autumn and I. All right, let's jump in. So let's talk about what we can do to help our clients put some things in place. What do we need to know? What do we need to steer them to?
You talked about in that startup phase when you're just figuring out what to do, you're not really making money yet, you're testing offers. The great thing about that phase is that it's very low risk legally because you're not making a lot of money. So in this phase, when you are lower risk because there's less to lose, there's less to worry about, I recommend starting off with a really solid contract. And that will get you really almost everything you need. And then as you get into that growth phase, you're starting to figure out what works. Maybe you have a program or a course with a catchy name that you've run a couple times. So people like it and you probably want to stick with it. That's when it comes time to think about up-leveling, maybe hiring a lawyer to do a custom contract. If you have areas where either you don't really understand the template or you're getting a lot of questions, then it might be time to engage with a lawyer.
So when you say contract though, what does that mean with a course creator? Is this terms of sale? What is a contract?
So for your service providers, it would be your client contract. So that one-on-one agreement. Yeah. But for a course creator or a coach with maybe a group program, it's going to be what we call terms of use.
Yeah. What about at that scaling level? What do they need at that level?
So then we start to look at more complex protections. We look at their corporate entity structure. So are they a corporation or an LLC? Maybe we add an IP holding company or some related entities. That is not something most of your listeners
head spinning. But no, it's good to know what will come next, Yeah. And then it also tells us what, like you said, calms us down. What do we need to focus on now? Because I see a lot of my own students get really stuck in just even starting an LLC.
Most of the service providers online, there will be a point where an LLC or a corporation probably makes sense. I don't think you need it to get started.
What other types of contracts or protection do we need or do we need to be thinking of?
Yeah. So again, this is kind of next level. You've got a solid contract in place. I start looking at your intellectual property protections. So again, for a service provider, this is not as important, but for an online course, or a big coaching company that probably has a curriculum that they're using, usually that intellectual property in that course or program is really the core of their business. That's what the value is. And so copyright is what will protect all the bits and pieces of your course or your coaching program. So videos, workbooks, templates, all of the resources that you share with your students or that you use to teach them or to guide them, all of that is protected by copyright law in the United States. And so we can register that with the United States Copyright Office to give a little boost, a little bit of extra protection.
So is just putting a little C mark at the bottom of my Google Doc, does that mean it's copyrighted?
So it is protected by copyright, but our copyright system is weird. In the United States, you can't file a lawsuit until it's registered.
Yeah. How long does that registration process take?
The process can take 6 to 9 months, but under copyright law, they'll backdate the registration to the date you file all the paperwork.
So what kind of protection do you have if you don't actually register it?
So you have all the same protections, but if you find someone has copied your work, you can't actually sue them.
Does the date matter when they copied you?
Yes, the date is very important because if you register your work before someone copies you, you get a lot more benefits if you have to sue them.
So what's happening out there with courses that are being stolen?
The tricky thing with courses is that usually we don't see what I would call verbatim copying, where it's like they actually take your course and sell it. Usually they're taking your ideas, they're reworking it. So they're making their own slides, they're doing their own videos, they have their own templates or handouts or whatever. And that is really hard to recover any kind of damages for because it's hard to prove where did they find it.
That makes sense. What if that person had gone through their training? Does that give you a little bit more power?
It can, because you can put things in your contract that prohibit people from using your stuff, that, potentially you could kick them out, or you could, have other things that you could do to take action against them.
The big thing I come across with my clients is the refund request and this whole dunning process. Oh my gosh, it's so laborious. So what advice can you give us for setting up our clients to make that less painful? And it actually can end up costing us money, right?
Okay. So I'm a little bit of a broken record, but strong contract. Make sure if you do have terms of use that the people who are buying from you actually have to check a box saying that they agree. So we want proof of the contract and clear refund policy. Then some of it is really more business. That's not advice at all, but just kind of recommendations, which is if you've got really important policies or procedures that you follow in delivering your course or your program, make sure that you talk about that during the sales process. So we help our clients with a lot of refund requests for high dollar programs. And almost every refund request is, I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, or this is different than you told me it would be. And so just being really clear, this is the kind of support you're going to get, or this is what's included. So just being really clear in however you're selling, that those important things are highlighted, because unfortunately, even though the contract will hold up, most people are not going to read it.
Well, then we get into a funny world too with PayPal, and people can just, what's the word? Request their money.
Chargebacks.
Thank you. I was not clawbacks, chargebacks. Okay.
Same thing.
Yeah. Can we do anything about that?
I will say most of the payment processors tend to side with the customer more. Mm-hmm. So just kind of know that going in, that you may want to budget for a little bit of a kind of default rate. But if you have solid evidence, you've got your contract, you can show they agreed to it. If it is some sort of online course or coaching program, you can show they logged in 72 times. They, took this many quizzes. They provided me with this many pieces of content for feedback. I had 7 coaching calls and I have recordings of those. All of that evidence showing that you did provide services. It's not just you stole their credit card and charged it. I mean, this is a legitimate business relationship. The more you can show that, the more you're likely, again, it's not 100%, but you're likely to be able to overcome a chargeback. And then the other thing is, if you've got payment plans, just kind of know that you're probably not going to get paid for it's very hard to chase payment if someone has quit a program or if you've had to kick them out for some reason. So at that point, I usually advise that is lost money. It's not usually worth pursuing.
Well, is there anything within the refund policy that we should add that we might not be thinking about?
Yeah, have one. We ask all of our clients when we're drafting terms or contracts, what is your refund policy? And a lot of times they'll say, oh, well, I don't give refunds. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your policy then. But we have to say that.
Yeah.
So making sure it's really clear. There are rules, federal regulations from the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, around using words like money back guarantee. So if you are using that kind of language, just be aware that there are rules around that. You have to make it really clear, are there conditions on that money back guarantee? If there are, you have to tell people that from, wherever you're talking about the guarantee, you have to make it really clear.
Some of us are working with those coaches that are promising money. What do we need to do to protect ourselves when it comes to that?
Yes. So this is an area that is not a DIY area. So that's kind of first. I would say if you're at any kind of scale, mid 6 figures, 7 figures, this is an area. If you are making income claims, you need to be working with a lawyer.
Define an income claim first, though. Go, tell us what that really is.
Yes. So it could be in a testimonial, or it could be just straight up like, you will make X. Any of those, like increase in numbers, or you will earn X dollars, and testimonials count too. General broad strokes is, if you're making an income claim, first of all, it has to be true. Like, you have to be able to substantiate it. And then you also have to show that it is typical. So it doesn't have to be like an exact average of what your students or your customers' results are, but it should be like in the range of normal. But what a lot of people are not doing, so this is kind of a first recommendation to think about, is just start tracking your customers' success so that you can say, like, is $2,000 a month normal or not? Or is that an outlier? Because you can still use outliers in your marketing. You just have to tell people they're an outlier.
All right. So my little logistical brain here is wondering how you would organize that customer success tracker. Have you seen one, and what does it look like?
I have seen a couple. It can be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet. It could also be like a Google form that you ask people to fill out once a month or whatever. Or I have also seen like very fancy platforms. I've also seen, like, I have a client, there's a thread in their Facebook group where everyone, like, on Monday has to report their success.
Okay. So while I have you, I want to ask you about copyright, since this is your jam. When it comes to us as the contractor, that sometimes we're creating content for our clients and, making graphics, writing copy. Talk to me a little bit about the copyright for our own business.
Yes. So again, this is in the US. The rule is, if an employee, like a W-2 employee, is creating something for a business and it's part of their normal job duties, then the business owns it. And that's automatic. You don't have to transfer it. That's what we call work for hire. The default rule, if you're a contractor, is the opposite. So the default rule is that the contractor owns, whatever they're creating. Now, you can change that by contract.
Yes.
But it has to be in writing. It has to be signed. It can, really, an email doesn't really work. Like, it needs to be transferred in a formal document. But I will say, I like to put something in there that the copyright transfers only upon payment in full.
Yes.
So you can hold it hostage.
Yes.
An important little kind of nugget to have.
Okay. And then I was almost wondering, why does it matter? And I think as the client, I want my stuff if you made it personal. But as I had DM'd you a few weeks ago, you can see situations where clients are trying to use our stuff to make extra money or sell things we didn't quite agree to. And I feel like there's a little blurred area. Do you feel comfortable talking about that just like a tiny bit?
Depending on the situation, it may or may not matter.
Right.
So I always give the example. I used to, in my last job when I was filing lawsuits for copyright infringement, I was usually working with photographers. They did stock photography.
Okay.
So they cared very much about their copyrights because that's how they made money. But then I will talk to like a portrait photographer, or even for like our law firm photos that we just did. The photographers always want to hold the copyright, and I always negotiate because it drives me crazy, because I want to own it as the person who's using the photos. I want to be able to do whatever I want. Yes. Well, and it's me. Yes. But I want to be able to, if I include it in a book, I want to be able to register the copyright, which I can't do if I don't own the photo. If I don't own the copyright. So it is important, if you're using things in your business, if you want to register a course and it has all these images in it and you don't own the copyright, you have to exclude those. So if someone copies that photo. And I will sometimes ask the photographers, like, why do you want to own this copyright? Are you going to license it? I'm not okay with that. And so I think it is a little bit of just kind of an industry standard for photographers that they kind of preach, always own the copyright.
Oh, I had a photographer who just was like, all right, here's your photos, and now you have to tag me every time you use them. And I'm like, I can't remember to feed my kids some days. Like, how am I going to remember, like, on the fly when I'm posting at the bus stop, like, to tag you? And I'm like,
I will pay you $500 more. So I don't
to leave me alone. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I didn't think about that. And I don't really see that problem, but it's good to talk about and kind of have that awareness. And would you tell me what kind of contract templates you have in your shop?
So we have over 30 templates. So
Me.
almost anything you can think of. So we cover all the basics. Our bestseller is our website privacy policy and terms and conditions. So that is just required for no matter where you are. So that's a good one. And then we have all different versions of client contracts. So for your copywriters or creatives, we have like a creative services, and it's really robust because it includes all these different things that we've seen go wrong. We also have coaching contracts. We have a couple different versions. We have a business one. We have a like life, health and wellness one. And then we have online course, group program, any kind of situation where you're working with customers or clients. We have a contract for that.
Okay, thanks, Autumn. We will catch you over on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, before you leave, hit subscribe on my channel and make sure you don't miss another YouTube video to help you up-level your marketing services, build out the back end of your business, and get smarter when it comes to online business. I'm all about helping you be the best digital marketing assistant so you can go up the ladder and become a go-to expert, become a creative specialist, a marketing manager, an OBM, a launch manager. There's so much more. But if you get started with the client work, if you treat each client like they're the most important thing, you treat their business like it's your business, you will go places, and I'm here to help. I have a free Facebook group down below. You can come join. We'll dive deeper into trainings, share job leads, get to know one another, and help each other. That's always an option. You can also check out my freebie. It's the 10 marketing services I started out with back in 2007 when I first started freelancing and grew my business to 6 figures. It started with one service at a time. And from there, increasing my rates. So grab this freebie and start putting your brain to work, building wealth for you. I'll see you in the next video.